Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things. You're going to listen to a fantastic journey of Nanthakumar, who's a delivery lead in ThoughtWorks. Like all of us, he started his journey in the field of engineering. And lo and behold, he found himself more gravitating towards quality and quality analysis. And he spent several years in creating tools on automation and skilling himself in automation. So he shares about how he, from being in quality and going into automation, and then he is moved to become an quality, not just quality lead, but a delivery lead for a very large-ish bank. He shares this journey of trial and error, as well as being very innately grounded in his journey. Listen on. Hi, Nanda. So happy to have you in the Software People Stories.
Thanks, Gayatri. It's a pleasure to have you.
All right. So I know you as Nanda. Is that okay to refer you as Nanda, or should I call you as Nanthakumar Arumugam?
Nanda is fine.
Oh, that's good. All right. Nanda, I know you. I think we met about 10 years back in ThoughtWorks. So can you share your career journey prior to that for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. Gayatri, I have close to 20 years of experience in the IT industry. I started as an instrumentation engineer and then moved to testing or QA. Spent a decade in QA testing, test architecture as a test manager, different roles. And then currently as a delivery manager in ThoughtWorks. I worked on multiple domains, multiple technologies, right from BFSI, retail, telecom, social care. That's all.
Wonderful. So, Nanda, like we normally start, right? What is your early, memory of being part of the software journey? Was it software that made you, or is it post? I saw in your profile that you were working for a Polyester company for some time. So, please share. That sounds very interesting.
Sure, Gayatri. So I did my engineering in electronics and instrumentation. Okay. So generally, right, when I'm in I just had only one paper, right, that too in third semester with Fortran, right, and C plus C++. So if you look at the structure, right, I think it's like Fortran is predominantly, right, I think generally, right, the professor used to say, right, I think if you are good in Fortran, you will clear this paper, because C and C++ is less than 30 marks or something like that. So that's the only paper I had in my entire engineering. Okay, so my thought was always around, right, like anybody as an engineer, right, I think you want to work on the core field of instrumentation. So I joined this company called Future of Polyester. They were making PET bottles for Pepsi and Coke. It was like 100% export oriented unit. So we were actually shipping what you call as preformed PET bottles, right? Before it is actually entirely blown up. We are saying we will call it as a PET baby bottles, basically baby bottles. Right? That's what we actually sent it to US basically. So I joined this company as an instrumentation engineer, as an engineer trainee. So that was a very, very different experience, right? I think because you're working for a manufacturing plant, continuous. There are two kinds of plants, right? One is like a continuous process and a batch process. Continuous process is your line, assembly line, those kind of things, right? Where you will actually, right, it continuously. Batch processing is, right, where it takes time, right? For example, right, at the 4 hours or 5 hours, a batch is run and then you see the output. So we are making PET bottles. So that's how I started the journey. There, I think we are actually doing a lot of PLC, programming logic controllers, where that's when yeah, part of electronics and logic was introduced to me. Okay, and they were also transforming the entire plan to SCADA, right, which is a supervisory control and data acquisition, which is like computer assisted manufacture. So I think that's when I joined them. So I was mostly into testing those things, right? So how you could actually control a manufacturing company using a software. So that's what's my early experience. So one of my managers partner and told, I think we see you more in right in the not in the field, rather in computer or in the control room. Basically, that's where I think computers and these things are at. So he told me, I think maybe you are more actually right, interested in computers. Probably you need to look for a different career. Okay. Constantly used to tell me. So even so, I was also right. I mean, looking at outside world, I think where after a level, right, you won't be able to. Or once this softwares are implemented, I think right, there was not much of right. It was like a regular production operation. So that's when I thought, I think right, maybe my interest lies in computers and I need to move. So that's where I actually moved from here, writing a logic controller programming to a real software world.
Wow, very nice story, huh? In terms of moving from core engineering subjects to actually working in the area that of interest. And you also started in the quality engineering, or did you start as a developer in software?
Okay. So after this instrumentation experience, right, I think I don't add any software experience or like that. So I again applied as a fresher after 1.5 years in instrumentation engineering. I got an opportunity in a company called Ready Test to Go. So this was like a pure play third-party testing company, right? So there were like ISVs, right, independent software vendors, the IVV, right, independent verification validation service. So yeah, I mean there are those days, right, 20 years before. Development used to happen in a different company and testing used to happen in a different company. Even today, we have few third-party testing companies. So this company was a purely a third-party testing company called Ready Test to Go. I joined as a test engineer there, and that's how I started my QA journey with them.
You moved through your longest experience outside of ThoughtWorks has been with CSS, right? And I also see you working across in New York and in India. What was the reason why you moved to the outside the country, and why did you move back?
So this Ready Test Go was testing arm of this parent company called the CSS Core. Right, I think I mean those days was I think completely very different, right? I think 20 years before, right? I think the way today software is developed or software looked is completely different. Those days, right, it was mostly waterfall model, and only in book you see iteration or in spiral. Those kind of models were actually in the bookish mostly, right? So we used to get a project, very, very small project, right? Really like a 1 month project or 2 months project, 3 months project, right? I think so. I worked on closely like 20 to 30 different assignments in my 8.5 years career in CSS Core. So across various domains and various technologies. Okay. So for example, right, I think few of my earlier memories, right, like I think we used to test add-ins in Internet Explorer. Those days, I think, right, I think you will get a lot of. Today we have Chrome plugins, right? Similarly, add-ins were more popular. So we were in fact testing a few of the Internet Explorer add-ins and Microsoft Word plugins add-ins to ERPs and a lot of different kind of varied kind of products across across the domains, right? Right from your banking, financials to pharmaceuticals and the entertainment industry. Also, all those were actually right. Predominantly, why they come to us, right? They want to get a certification or a validation done by a third-party vendor before they actually get into the market. So that was the work in there, and we were really, I mean, I think within the sense, right? I think the organization is completely a testing, right? I think we were very deeply rooted into testing and QA, where right from our COO to a test engineer, I think right, everybody will talk only about QA and testing. So we had two different arms. One is a functional testing arm and it's a performance testing arm. and I was part of initially functional arm, and then later moved myself into both functional and automation and performance testing arm. So that's when I got an opportunity to work in UK for some time, and then I was actually got an opportunity to work in one of the world's largest hedge fund in US for some time. Basically, right, I think the testing actually, right, I think the brand name of the Ready Test Go and the work we actually did in performance testing and automation testing those days, actually, I'll be moved to US and actually work on this opportunity.
Wow, 20 different programs, huh? And and it must have been very hard to collect feedback, right? Once you finish that, did that work well or not work well into the customer's base? I mean, how difficult would have been, right, to even context switch from different ones to other? I'm not even able to imagine how that would have been.
Yeah, and I think maybe, right, I think when I was saying, right, I think that's maybe the advantage of water polish models, right? I think we used to have, I mean, huge documentations, right? So right from HLD, LLD documents, right, and BRD documents, right? So those documents actually somewhat, I think, definitely has helped us in, right, quickly understand, right? I think if you're put in a project, right, I think you will have ample of document to go through. Today, right, I think little different world, right, where we are actually having Jira stories or those kind of things. Those days it was little different, right? I think the only bugs will be logged, and most of the requirement documents will be in Word document format. So I think you have the pretty much, right, I think you have every manual and all those things will be, I mean, hard code prepared. Okay, so and getting feedback, yes, I think that was, I think, right, generally, right, we have product owners and business analysts, right, who help us with the understanding of the domain. They also understand, right, I think we are coming from a we'll be here for a very short term, and they help us and provide those knowledge, like in the form of KT sessions and other things, where we need to quickly ramp up and on a product. One more thing, what generally helps us is, right, comparative, right? I think, I mean, after you work on 3 or 4 domains, right, what happens is, right, you start comparing yourself with, right, how a telecom domain is actually different from, is similar to a banking, right, and what are the core things, right? So mostly, right, I think like what developers used to say, right, I think we just initially learn only one programming language, and then, right, we generally compare it with other programming language and learn the code. Same way, right, I think even here, right, I think we generally compare it with how it's in other field, and generally, right, we quickly ramp up that way. That's why I think, right, most of the QA professionals, right, over 10-15 years, right, they worked across different domains, and their business knowledge sometimes, right, will be more higher than the actual SMEs on that particular area. And also, right, since they have worked on different domains, they are able to quickly come out with different approaches or solutions, which is groundbreaking than the SMEs who are, who are there, spend a lot of time.
Very nice. And is this also the time when you skilled yourself into test automation? Because many times I've seen quality engineers struggle when it comes to test automation. I mean, it may sound very nuanced, that okay, you're doing a manual testing and the same thing you're automating it, but there seems to be some kind of a hurdle that folks have to pass. How did you pass, and what are the suggestions that you have for people in a similar journey?
Since I think working in an environment like Ready Test to Go, actually, right, I think because that's like a hardcore testing company. Okay, so you have all the, right, I think vendors, right, vendor partners, right, or this tooling partners, right, automation tool partners, right, I think they like to actually engage with you, and they mostly, right, come for showing demo or the new product. And also, right, the clients also expect you, right, they keep you in tow, right. I think those days was right, I think the popular automation tool 15-20 years back was Mercury Interactive's Windrunner. Okay, Windrunner and Loadrunner are the two automation tools. The start of the history kind, I would say. And in fact, right, the open source Selenium came as a replacement for mercury poisoning. Okay, I think Selenium is a medicine for, if at all, right, someone is actually poisoned with mercury. Selenium is the medicine actually. So in fact, right, Selenium name itself was given to the open source because, right, I think those days it was, right, more of Windrunner and Roadrunner from the Mercury Interactive company. So my journey started with working on Windrunner and Loadrunner. Those are all very, very simple scripting languages which are used for automation. And even those times, I think we were constantly working on how we could actually, right, move away from manual testing, which is very laborious, right? I mean, those days, right, I think your regression testing for a product release will take easily like 2 to 3 weeks of regression testing has to happen before a release. So every release will be like 3 to 6 months, right? Not today we are talking about continuous integration, continuous delivery, where I think every week or every 2 days, right, I think you can see something into the production. Those days, I think it was a little difficult because, right, regression has to be done manually. So that's when these tools actually helped us to actually initially automate the regression suits. So in fact, these were called as regression automation tools, basically, where we will automate the end-to-end journey in regression suite, and that actually helped us in the regression. So there are many tools, right? And since we are a third-party ISV company, we were also doing a lot of POCs with different tools for different clients. So that gave us a good experience in these different automation tools, where we were able to expertise ourselves a little faster than the market.
I had not heard the story of selenium being the antidote for mercury poisoning.
Yes.
Fantastic, Nantha. I also like the whole funda of, see, if you are an independent consulting, independent, validation company, automatically people will come and show how to use it. And you sort of have that upper hand to, the need. And also repetitively, if you have to keep doing the regression, there's no other option but to automate. I think that's really the key, right? If you, many organizations have this independent automation team as a COE. What is your thought on that?
I think maybe for the waterfall age or that, maybe 15, 20 years, right? I think Center of Excellence actually made real sense. But today in agile world, or right, I think where the business is very dynamic, I think, there is a lot less interest among people or the business, right? I don't think the business can wait, or as the siloed organization will not be successful. Today, right, if you see, right, I think you're working very closely with the product owner, the developer, a BA, and a QA are part of one single team where they interact daily. And mostly, right, I think everything is shift left, right? I think what you anticipate in a QA, 1 week down the line, today it's been captured in the requirement itself, right? I think even that's being questioned at a requirement collection stage itself. So I think that world is completely different, and today's dynamic world is completely different, right? I don't think today we could actually, it will not be worthwhile to actually have a center of excellence and work that way. But even today, right? Even today, these agile teams are there. It's always good to actually have those QAs connect as a group. For example, right, at a more informal or a formal group, and have that continuous connect where they can actually share their own experience of what's happening across the projects or the industry. That connect is enough rather than having a center of excellence is a thought process.
Yeah, actually like a chapter where it is focused on capability building, sharing of best practices, ensuring that, you're not reinventing the wheel per se, right? Agree. So coming back to, once you finish CSS, I think you moved on to, you joined ThoughtWorks. Please share your journey. It's been 10 years, and I think when we met, you mentioned about 10 years, right? Been with ThoughtWorks. So what has been your journey like? And I know you are playing a architect/delivery lead role today. So how have you changed your avatar through this time?
So I joined ThoughtWorks as a quality analyst some 10 years before. So at that time, right, I think I actually got inspired by one of the talk given by Martin Fowler when he was in India in 2011. Okay, when I was in CSS Corp, right, I got a chance to actually, right, opportunity to attend a session with Martin Fowler, the chief scientist of ThoughtWorks. Right, because right, those days we were just using Selenium for maybe a couple of years around, and I was part of the Center of Excellence of Ready Test Score. where we were working on a framework on Selenium and other stuff. And to meet opportunity, I mean, to see people who have actually developed those Selenium tool and to interact with Martin Fowler was a great, I mean, like a fan following thing, fan moment for me. So that's when I think that's when, right, in my 8.5 years career, I felt, I think let's say if at all I get a chance, I think I'll move to ThoughtWorks. Right? And then I applied to ThoughtWorks, and then I joined as a QA. So initially it was like I was put up in a project where I think I was working very closely with the teams. Since, right, I think even in the 2010-11, the Agile has already picked up, and most of the companies have started. Even in CSS, we have started to work on Agile team. But coming to ThoughtWorks was very different, right? I think where you have both physical and digital wall, where you will actually physically write the story, use card, and actually stick it and move. So those experiences were very different. But what you learned as in the quality world actually helped me to grow even in ThoughtWorks. From a senior consultant to a lead consultant, where I was actually heading the QA community in Chennai office, right, was a very good experience, I would say. For both the learning you had in CSS Core, with the new learning and the new ways of working of ThoughtWorks, actually helped to build a better person of me.
Nice. And Nantha, you also have traveled quite a bit, right, for ThoughtWorks, and right now, I think for the last few years you've been in the financial space and staying in the financial space. I think that is what I wanted to call out, given your experience across different domains. Can you contrast that kind of an experience, what you are doing today, compared to what you started off your career?
Okay. So I think the huge difference is, right, I think when I started my career, I was mostly like a IC role, right, independent consultant kind of a role, right. And today, right, being a delivery manager, I think first thing is that the role difference is there, right. And the way industry today looks is completely different, right. I think those days, I think, right, I think the interaction between the business and IT was very minimal, or maybe a product manager or a BA, or the only people who actually go and actually speak with the business. Today, it's completely very different, right? I think it's the other way around, I would say, right? I think it's more IT focused or IT centric or technology centric driven. So where your IT managers are working very closely with the business, right? I think it's right day in, day out. I think, right, I think you have meetings with the business team, and the business directions or the feedback is coming from the tech centric, right? So today, how we create work, or how we measure work, or how we operate, or how the feedback is passed on, right? For the business, everything is coming from the digital or the technology. So I think that's the huge change, I would say, from the previous engagement with the BFSI and today the engagements.
Yeah, I mean, what we often say is that the distance between the team that is working and the consumers are reducing quite a bit. I mean, when you say distance, I think let's be very honest, right? It's not that the people who are doing that, collaboration and all of that, they were not being effective or anything, but it is just that there was some kind of a fear that created that barriers, that you do this, I'll do that, sort of for a lack of better term, aggregated, then sort of create those additional layers of communication and things like that. I think it's definitely for the better. And what you rightly said in terms of technology first, a lot of people say that I'm a fintech company, or I'm a technology company first, and then a financial company and everything. I think that sort of this cultural change is what I feel is driven this sort of a model, right, Nantha?
Yeah, definitely, right. Today, if you see, right, I think today a business leader, right, a person or operation manager, or right, he actually directly connects with the tech lead of your team, okay, to pass on his requirements or get his feedback. And this is what I'm planning to actually, is it possible, right? Is it feasible first? You directly approach it, right? He bypasses, or I mean, the communication or something like that. Sometimes, right, we have seen places where your developer directly communicates with the business person, saying, I think this is the one requirement that has come from you, but I don't think that's the right one. Can you actually change it, right? These are not, what we have seen, right, in before 10 years. Okay, so and today, the proximity, right, with the tech team and the business is completely zero, I would say, right? I think they work as a team, right? I think, and because, right, today there are so many digital products which has been created, or digitally related projects has been created, where the business revenue is actually coming more from that, and it is aiding them. So the business is also has opened up today to more to this kind of feedback and software-based metrics and software-based based feedback mechanism to help their business out. I think that's a radical change, I would say, the way the business operates.
Yeah, and see, more and more digital we are seeing, you're also seeing it as an ecosystem. There is no one software independently running. So it means that there is some capability that we are bringing, some other capability somebody else is bringing. For you to even identify which one you want to build, which one you want to buy, that becomes a team sport, if you will, right? It's no longer like, okay, I just throw the requirement, somebody else will come back and tell me how much it costs and what is the time.
Yeah, I think today, I think interaction between IT systems has been very high. I think initially, right, I think it's not like, I think 10 years before or 15 years before, there was no IT system. But it was more siloed IT systems. Today, right, I think if you want to buy or build a product, the first question is, right, how many interaction, right, how many other IT systems actually it can interact very well, and does my existing system support? And that's the first question being asked, right? So today, I think most of the systems that you are building are integrating systems, right? I think the core platform could be there, and right, how you actually modernize your legacy architecture is the word currently being done. Because, right, people feel, I think, there is no point in having a siloed system without any feedback mechanism. I think, right, most of the systems should be integrated together, and by doing that, right, the business outcomes and the business value actually increases profoundly.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the end of the day, there are tools available. Why would you not leverage them? As long as, the costs and other factors are taken in, right? I think that sort of given where you are today, right? If you had a time machine, like let's say you want to time Turner for 5 years down the line, how do you see this? Maybe 5 or 10 years, and have you thought of it? How do you imagine the world to be?
Maybe, right, I think if you say, right, that when I was in, independent IC role, right, I think I would say independent consultant role, I would say I had a very narrowed vision on mostly on the IT system, right, how it operates, right. I think, right, very narrowed but very strong opinion on how the systems are, but a less understanding of the larger picture of how it fits into the business world. Right. So most of my feedbacks are, right, passing on the wisdom to the juniors, right, will be like, when you are in that IC role, or when you are starting your career, right, definitely, right, you will be hands-on with the systems, right, you will be on top of it, but also see, right, where this actually fits a larger puzzle, right. I think what business are you in, right, what who is your competitor, what problem you're actually solving, right. If you can actually have that view, that will actually help you to actually work on the smaller system but better. And today, to my peers or someone, right, I think in fact to me, right, what we generally, right, say to ourselves is, right, what are the wisdom of passed on to us by our senior leadership, right. Today, right, you are in delivery manager kind of a role. Definitely, you have this larger vision, okay, where you have a bird's eye view of what's happening, right, who is your competitor, what's the next product to build, all those things. If you can actually dive little deeper into the finer systems, right, understand little more better, I think you will be able to actually build your next product, competitor's product, or how they are able. Those knowledge will be actually more. So when you're in, starting your career, try to get the business knowledge. When you're actually try to see, look down basic. So those could be my wisdom.
Fantastic, Nantha. Very, very nicely put. And I also liked how your journey from as instrumentation engineer to currently delivery manager has really changed your perspective, right? I think that is very important in terms of saying, hey, I am in this state because of all my past, but also how am I skilling myself? So, any advice to our listeners that you want to share, Nantha?
I think, understand, right? I think there is a constant change in technology. Okay. Not only technology and as well as business, right? I think you should have open ears. I think you need to listen. You need to read a lot of books or articles, right? I think definitely, right? Skilling is one thing. Without that, I think you lose that edge. Okay. I think so. Definitely, right? I think skilling it's not an optional anymore, I would say. Right, even at even 20-25 years of people, right, of experience, right, you can't actually look back and work, but mostly, right, what is coming new, the challenges are completely very different. Okay, no one has solved the distributed computing problems, or right, so those problems you can't actually, definitely you can't look past, but you can actually look past for the core principles and guidances, but the solutions are something going to be very new. So, yeah, I think, definitely, right, you need to be on top of your skill.
Thank you so much, Nantha. I think I enjoyed this conversation immensely. I hope our listeners do enjoy too. And thank you, Nantha, from delivery manager from ThoughtWorks. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Gayatri.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People stories.
If you like this episode,
please subscribe on your favorite podcast client
and spread the word in your network.
If you'd like to share your story,
contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.